This lesson is about converting measurements, and there are lots of steps here, and it just seems kind of weird, and it works though if you will just follow these steps. So these are not necessarily presented like this in your textbook. So if I were you, I would write this down and I would do these examples on notebook paper, every single one of them, so you can refer back to these on the homework worksheet that you have, because it's just kind of strange, but I promise it works. There's a little bit of vocabulary we need to talk about before we jump into these, and the first thing we need to discuss is this thing called a unit multiplier. You're going to be told to use unit multipliers, and basically, first of all, the word unit means one. In the units, it's the ones place, right? So you have this idea that a unit multiplier is a fraction that's equivalent to 1, and equivalent's a math word that just means equal to. We're going to use unit multipliers to convert fractions from one unit of measure to another. So if I'm going to convert feet to centimeters, I'm going to use unit multipliers to get me there. So here's an example. Remember, it has to be equivalent to 1, and that means the top value has to be equal to the bottom value. So 1 foot can also be represented as 12 inches. Those values are the same. So I can create a unit multiplier, 1 foot over 12 inches. And here's a fraction whose values are the same. If I measure with a ruler 1 foot, I'm going to measure the exact same value as I would if I measured 12 inches. Now I bet when I hit the next button I'm going to have written over, yeah. Okay, so let me erase that so you can see this. Another example would be 36 inches. Let me erase all of this and write this. Sorry. Okay. I know y'all are going to be frustrated by those few spots that I missed, but that's okay. So this could be 1 foot over 12 inches. 36 inches is equivalent to 1 yard. So I could say 36 inches over 1 yard, or 3 feet. So 36 inches over 3 feet. Those values are equivalent. That's a unit multiplier, and we're going to be using unit multipliers throughout this lesson. Okay, because I know you all are doing what I asked you to do and taking notes on notebook paper to refer back to, I need you to add this to your sheet of notes. You are going to need to have access to be able to recall measurements throughout this lesson and your homework. Some of them, prayerfully, you know, but I've taught long enough to know that some of you will not know this information. You need to know that 1 foot is equivalent to 12 inches. 1 meter is equivalent to 100 centimeters. 1 yard equals 3 feet. 1 centimeter is equal to 10 millimeters. 1 inch equals 2.5 centimeters, 2.54 centimeters. 1 mile is equal to 5,280 feet. 1 kilometer equals 1,000 meters. So you need to be able to reference back to this information. I think that you won't have to add any more. You may at some point have things like minutes and hours or days and weeks, but those things should be relatively simple. So make sure you have this written down somewhere. Here are your steps. There's 4 steps. They're not going to make sense yet, but I want to kind of verbally go over them, and then we will jump in and use them, and we're going to do several of these problems. You need to write these steps down. They need to be easily accessible to you as you start working through these. So first step, put what you have over 1. You're going to be given a measurement, a starting point. You're going to create that as a fraction or convert that into a fraction by putting it over 1. Your second step is going to be to create your unit multiplier. Some of these problems are going to require more than 1 unit multiplier. You may need 2 or 3. The rule is, word-wise, whatever you have on the top goes to the bottom. And that will make sense as we keep going. Step 3, you're going to cancel your measurements. I'll explain that. And then step 4, for now, we're going to multiply. As we go further on, we are not going to actually multiply these, and I'll show you that in a little bit. The reason being, some of these are going to get so large that your calculators cannot compute them. So let's say I ask you to convert 6,000 miles to centimeters. That number is going to be such a large number, your calculator can't hold it. So we probably won't multiply them very long, but I'll let you know when we get there. Let's walk through the first one of these. Now listen, some of these short ones you're going to be able to do in your head, and I understand that, but I'm going to show you how to do the one-step ones by writing it out so that when we get to the 2- and 3-step ones, you understand what we're doing. So the first step, put what you have over 1. What are we given? We are given 2 miles. So we're going to put 2 miles over 1. Not hard. Now, we need to get from miles to feet. This is a measurement that I know. I know that 1 mile equals 5,280 feet. So measurement-wise, whatever is on top, which in this case is miles, that is going to go on the bottom of my unit multiplier, because I could actually create 2 unit multipliers with this information. I could do 1 mile over 5,280 feet, or I could do 5,280 feet over 1 mile. So I need to know which one of these, and I didn't put all those numbers in there, but I need to know which unit multiplier to use. And the way to know is whatever is on top goes on bottom. So I need to get from 2 miles to feet. Whatever's on top, word-wise, goes on bottom. Wherever I'm going goes on top. I'm going from miles to feet. Always, 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 always do words first. I know you're going to think it doesn't matter, but I've done this long enough. I am telling you it matters. Do your words first, okay? So put what you have over 1, not hard. Word-wise, top to bottom, now I fill in my measurements. Well, I already know that 5,280 feet equals 1 mile. Next, so that's not hard. Next step, I'm going to cancel my measurements. Only am I going to cancel measurements. Don't touch your numbers, okay? So miles over miles cancels. The only measurement I'm left with is feet, and that's what I want to do. That's where I want to get to. Step 4 is to multiply. Top times top, bottom times bottom. 2 times 5,280 over 1 times 1, and my measurement that I'm left with is feet. I can't do that math in my head. I mean, I could do 1 times 1 in my head, but 2 times 5,280 gives me 10,560 feet over 1. That over 1 doesn't matter, and that is my answer. So the mathematics of this is not hard. If I know my measurements and I follow these steps, I'm going to get the right answer every single time. I will tell you this. This right here is what trips people up. They just create their unit multiplier without moving their words in the correct place. So let's look at another one of these. So we're going to, I made the steps on here. I made them a little bit smaller so I could have more room to work. We're going to convert 2 miles to yards. I don't know how many yards are in a mile. There's like maybe 1740, 1470, I don't know. But here's what I know. I know how to get from miles to feet. There are 5,280 feet in 1 mile. Then I know that I can get from feet to yards because 1 foot Nope, 3 feet equals 1 yard. 3 feet equals 1 yard. So those are the measurements that I'm going to use. Let me turn that into an equal sign. I'm going to have to convert from miles to feet, feet to yards. So step 1, put what you have over 1. 2 miles over 1. Now we're going to create our unit multipliers. I know the information, miles to feet, feet to yards. Word-wise, I have to put whatever is on top to bottom. So I'm going to go from miles. Where am I going? Miles to feet. I have not got to yards yet, so I've got to keep going. Remember, top to bottom. Feet, where am I going? To yards. Now that my words are done, I am going to enter in my numbers. It's important that you do those words first so I know where my numbers go. There are 5,280 feet in 1 mile. There are 3 feet in 1 yard. There are not 3 yards in 1 foot. It does matter where your numbers go. That's why we do our words first. Step 3, we're going to cancel any measurements. Just the words. Miles over miles, feet over feet. Step 4, I'm going to multiply. So on the top, I have 2 times 5,280, which is, on the bottom, I have 1 times 1 times 3, which is just 3. So I'm going to divide that out, and what I end up with is 3,520, and the only measurement I have left is yards. So that is going to be my answer. So the thing is, the math of these is not hard. It's just these steps, and it just is kind of a weird thing, right? It's just kind of a strange process. But if you will follow those steps, you'll get it right. You will get it right every single time. Okay, let's look at a couple more. I'm going to convert 2 miles to inches. So step 1, put what I'm given over 1. 2 miles over 1. Now I'm going to create my unit multipliers. And you may need to sort of write down a blueprint. I'm going to go from miles to feet. Then I'm going to go from feet to inches. I'm going to have 2 steps here. I don't know how many inches are in a mile, but I know how many inches are in a foot, and I know how many feet are in a mile. So remember, word-wise, whatever is on top goes on bottom. I'm going from feet to miles. Whatever is on top goes on bottom. I'm going from feet to inches. Now I fill in my numbers. 5,280 feet over 1 mile. Now listen, it's just a coincidence that this has been the one we used every time, feet over miles. Sometimes that will change, and I probably have one in a minute that's changed. And then I have 12 inches over 1 foot. So I'm going to multiply this, and hopefully my calculator can do this. If you get to the point that your calculator it normally has some number and then times 10 with an exponent, that means I can't hold it. But this one it can do. Let me write all the numbers down. 105,600. And oh, I forgot step 3, miles and miles, feet and feet, inches. And that's my answer. All right, we're going to convert 12 yards to miles. Step 1, put what you're given over 1. I do not know how many yards are in a mile, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from yards to feet, feet to miles. So whatever's on top goes on bottom. I'm going from yards to feet. Whatever's on top goes on bottom, feet to miles. Now fill in my numbers. There are 3 feet in 1 yard. Now 5,280 feet over 1 mile. Cancel out any words. Yards cancel, feet cancel. I'm left with miles, which is what I want. Now I multiply. 12 times 3 is 36 over 5,280. If I take my calculator and divide that out, because I'm not doing that in my head, I have a big long decimal. So what I'm going to have you do is just do like 5 or 6 decimals, because if I round this, I don't even have a number here. So it's 0.0068. We'll stop there, miles. Okay? And that's that one. This one is a long one. Let me make out my blueprint here. I need to go from centimeters to yards. Here's what I know. I know I can go from centimeters to inches. There's 2.54 centimeters in an inch. Then I can go from inches to feet. 12 inches equals a foot. Then I can go from feet to yards. There are 3 feet in a yard. So step 1, put what I'm given over 1. First unit multiplier, whatever's on top, it goes on bottom. Let me shorten that line. I'm not going to have enough space if I write that one big. Okay, whatever I have on top goes on bottom. Where am I going? Centimeters to inches. Whatever's on top goes on bottom, inches to feet. Whatever's on top goes on bottom, feet to yards. Now I plug in my numbers. There are 2.54 centimeters in 1 inch. There are 12 inches in 1 foot. There are 3 feet in 1 yard. Now I cancel out any words that match on top and bottom. And what I have left is yards. That's what I want. If at this point, after you cancel, what you have left, if it does not match the question that you have been asked to answer, then you have messed up. That's one reason we cancel those out as a self-check in the middle of our work. Now we just multiply. Well, 12,500 times 1 times 1 is 12,500. Now, time for my calculator. 2.54 times 12 times 3 is 91.44. Now I'm going to do 12,500 divided by 91.44, and I get 136.701, so 0.7 yards. And that's it. All right, so the math of this is not hard if you will just remember those steps. And assuming you all did what you were supposed to do, you have it all written down. If you did not write that down, back this video up and write your information down so that you have it for homework, all right? There is an online quiz thing for you to do for your homework today. So it should be linked right under this video on the GroupMe and the portal. All right, if you have any questions, let me know.